Hey guys! One of the best ways to show off personality to what you're knitting is to change the color of your yarn so that you can create unique pictures. And this is great if you're making hats or sweaters. So I'm going to actually show you how to knit a heart into something that you're knitting. So I'm going to be using thicker yarns and 9mm knitting needles. And the project today requires that you know how to do the knit stitch and the purl stitch. So if you feel like you don't have a good grasp of either, check out my tutorials. But other than that, I think we're all set. Let's get started. So to knit a heart into my project, I've decided that I'm going to base it off of something I've sketched out on graph paper, and I love using graph paper because each square represents a stitch. So you can draw it out and get a good visualization of what your project will look like when it's done. So my plan is to do 11 stitches across, and I'm going to do 2 rows, and then I'm going to start adding in my new color to make the heart shape. And then I'll finish off with just 2 rows of the initial color. So let me go ahead, do my cast on, and I'll show you what I do from there. So I've gone ahead and casted on 11 stitches, and I'm going to be doing 1 knit, 1 purl, 1 knit, 1 purl as far as the rows go. So I'm going to end up with a stockinette stitch. And the stockinette stitch is the best stitch to do if you're trying to get a picture to show up in your work. So I'm going to start off with a knit row. And remember, I'm doing 2 rows before I even start putting my picture in my work. And this is going to vary depending on your project. So if you're working on a sweater, of course, it's not just going to be 2 rows before your picture. Alright, so that's row number 1, and all I did was the knit stitch. So now you can see it's time to do the purl. So I'm making sure my yarn's in the front. Alright, so I've done 1 knit and 1 purl, and you can see the braided pattern, the stockinette design showing up, and if I look at my paper, the 3rd row is where I start to incorporate a different color. So all I'm going to do is count to my edge, and I gave myself 2 stitches on all sides of the heart. So I'm going to count to this border that I drew. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 normal red stitches. And then when I get to the 6th stitch, that's when my new color is going to start. So I'm just going to go ahead. I can tell by my braided design it's time to do the knit stitch. So I'm going to do 5 knit stitches, and then I'm going to show you how to add in a new color. Alright, so there's 5 stitches. My 6th stitch needs to be a different color. So when I add in a different color, I'm going to put it on the purl side rather than the knit side, because the knit side is what I want to be visible. And you don't want to see any tied off yarn on the visible side. So I'm going to take my new yarn and just pick a loop to tie it through. I like to do a double knot just to make sure it's in there pretty tight. So when I do my 6th stitch, which is the new color, I'm going to go through this red loop, but instead of picking up this red yarn, I'm going to pick up the white yarn. So I wrap the white yarn around the needle in the back and pull it through. And then if I look at my picture, the last 5 stitches should be red. So to do the last 5 stitches, I'm going to just continue using the red yarn. And I just leave that white yarn hanging there for whenever I need it the next time. And one thing you want to watch when you're using a second color is that sometimes, because you're just letting it hang there, sometimes the stitch you just did becomes a little bit loose. So pull it not too tight, but pull it so it's the same tension as the other stitches, and that way they all kind of look the same. So you can't really tell how nice the stitch will look until I do the next row. So if I look at the next row, I'm going to do 3 white stitches right in the middle. And to get to the white stitches, first I'm going to do 4 red stitches. So because I just did a knit side, now it's time to do a purl. So everything that I'm doing in this row will be purl, even the white. Alright, so I've done my 4 red stitches, and now it's time for me to start doing my 3 white stitches. So I'm going to continue to do the purl, but instead of using this white yarn, or this red yarn, I'm going to use the white yarn. So I'm going to go through, do my purl stitch in the next loop, but use the white yarn, wrap it over, and pull it through. And then I'll go into that white stitch I did the first go around, and then do one more, and now it's time to switch back to my red. So I'm going to do 4 more reds. And you can see, because I'm letting yarn go and picking it up a little bit down the road, I'm starting to get strings that hang across. And this all should be showing up on the purl side. So when you flip it over and look at the knit side, you're starting to get a really pretty picture. And it will show up more once I do a couple more rows. So Going back to my little cheat sheet again, I can see the next row right here. I need to have 5 white stitches, and to get to the 5 white stitches, I'm going to first do 3 red stitches. Alright, so there are my 3 red stitches. Now I'm going to switch to the white stitches. So same thing as before. And then for my last 3, I'm going to switch back to the red stitch. So you can see it's showing up a little bit more. This heart is just starting to appear. Alright, so switching over to my purl side, I can see that now I'm doing the biggest section of white where it's 7 whites in a row, and on either side is 2 reds. So there are my 2 reds, and now I'm switching over to my whites. And then I just finish up my row with 2 reds. All right, so the next row I'm going to do is the knit stitch, and if I look at my sheet, it's 3 reds, 2 whites, 1 red, 2 whites, 3 reds. So almost there. I'm doing my 1 white in the middle, or my 1 red in the middle, and I'm switching back to my 2 whites. And then 3 reds to end off the row. Alright, so that's the heart. It's going to look a little bit better once I do my last 2 rows. So to finish off, I'm going to do 2 more red rows, and then you'll really be able to see the heart pop out. Alright guys, so this is the finished heart, and this is the knit side. So this is what you're going to see on the outside of a sweater or a hat. The inside of what you're making is the purl side. And this is where you have the yarn that's tied off, the looser strings. No one's going to see that part of it. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and be sure to check out some more of my videos, subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon.